It's Friday, January 6, 2017, and I am standing at the site of the world famous Raleigh Snowpocalypse. Right behind me is the hill where you saw that picture with the car spun out to two sides. One was on fire, and the whole world made fun of my hometown for how bad drivers are in the South. It's all good. There's some really fun memes that came out of that. And it's true, driver inexperience does play a big part in why winter storms are so hard on us in the South. But that's not the only reason. There's a lot of science in why the storms that we see are often different than what you get in the North. And that's what's coming up next on Twang and Bang. I've moved off of the super busy highway to a slightly less busy road that passes right in front of my neighborhood. This is a place I'm going to be able to get to tomorrow no matter how nasty it gets. Right now it is 2:56 p.m. It's 42 degrees air temperature, but check out the temperature of the road. Depending on where I meter, I'm getting up to 48 degrees. There's 46.7, 47.8 it popped up to. Why is the road surface so much warmer than the air temperature? Well, the road is actually still absorbing radiant energy from the sun. Even though it's cloudy, it's coming through, it's warming the surface of the road. And this road is like a big heat battery. It's going to take a lot of cold in the form of air or a blanket of snow to drop the temperature down. The first snow that would fall on a road like this is definitely going to melt. If you get enough snow on top of that, it will cool the road down below the freezing point, freezing the melted snow, and then snow would accumulate on top of that. That's one way we get really nasty storms in the South. The storm we're looking at tonight, though, is actually going to start with rain, and then the temperatures are going to drop well below freezing. I don't even know how much snow we're going to get on top of the ice, but it's going to be a mess one way or another. It's about 11:15, and after hours of rain, we're finally getting frozen precipitation. We're getting some wet snowflakes with freezing rain. Air temperature is 33 degrees, but check this out. The pavement is 41 degrees. That's crazy. That's quite a heat sink. So it still might be a while before stuff freezes on the surface of the roads, but it's going to happen. 26 degrees, 28 degrees. In just over an hour, the surface temperature of the pavement dropped by 12 degrees. That's how the roads in the South can go from being completely passable to a sheet of ice to completely impassable before people have a chance to adjust. I'm back at the top of my neighborhood. It is 12:05 on the 7th. Air temperature is 24 degrees. We started getting the snow about 10 a.m. Before that, we were actually getting sleet. That's what our primary accumulation was overnight. Before that, we had hours of rain. So the road behind me, even though you see tire tracks, you've got a glaze of ice, you have about a ½ inch of sleet, and now you're getting this snow on top of that. It doesn't seem to be causing any problems on this part of level road behind me, and I've really only seen trucks and people driving actually nice and slowly like you should. But I want to show you the hill in my neighborhood where a neighbor just drove up about 20 minutes ago because where he drove turned into slush, and I bet you it's going to be ice by the time we get back to it. I'm now on the road that leads out of my neighborhood. I love living here, by the way. It's a slight uphill. It's not as steep as the hill out on 70. It's 3 miles from here, by the way, where that famous picture was taken, but it still illustrates a point. About 20 minutes ago, a neighbor of mine left the neighborhood in his truck. He didn't have any trouble getting out because there was enough friction with that snow layer on top of the granulated ice that he was able to get up. But the weight of his truck pressing down on that snow melted it into slush. I saw it right behind them. It was all really smushy slush. But within 5 minutes, that slush froze back into ice because we have ice underneath, we have 24-degree air above, and now the next car that comes out, the next truck that comes out of this neighborhood really won't get a lot of traction where you see tire tracks. So what are they gonna do? They're gonna move to the right or to the left of those tire tracks, and they're gonna create their own ribbons of ice leaving the neighborhood. Then the next vehicle will create its own ribbon of ice until this whole road behind me is ice from one side to the other. It will happen probably before this storm is over. It happens every storm we get here. And at that point, nobody's getting out because it's just ice. No truck without studs, without chains, are gonna be able to climb a hill with ice. And it's the same conditions, the same situation that happened on the day of Snowmageddon or Snowpocalypse. If you look at the picture, you can see it's actually a ribbon of ice winding its way up the hill from all the cars that actually were able to make it up before, compacting the snow, that snow melting, then turning into ice. Cars coming up behind would lose their traction. They would slide off to one side or the other. They would find traction in the snow on the sides and get stuck there. And that's how you get snowpocalypse. That's how you get that kind of thing happening in the South more often than I saw in the North. I lived in Pennsylvania in the coal region, in the mountains of Pennsylvania for the first 25 years of my life. I know what it's like driving in northern winter storms. You just don't have many storms in the north, starting with a road temperature of 48 degrees and ending up with a road temperature at 24 degrees in less than 24 hours.
We got lucky this time because this happened at night instead of the middle of a workday. The temperature drop isn't the problem though. It's that it happened across the freezing point of water. Worse still, as cold as the roadway eventually got, it's not cold enough to keep a thin layer of snow on top of it from melting as people drive over it, yet it's cold enough to freeze that melted snow into ice. That banjo music you hear means a southern driver is coming because, as you know, we all listen to banjo music all the time. As his tire compresses the snow, the increase in pressure generates heat. Friction between the tire and the snow, and even between the snow crystals themselves, generates additional heat. Since the snow is only slightly colder than its melting point, it turns to slush pretty much instantly. Once he and his banjo music are gone, that slush is sandwiched between a road that is below freezing and air that is below freezing, so it very quickly turns to ice. Unlike snow, ice does not easily melt under the pressure of passing cars, which is why once that transition happens, it's all over for drivers in the South. More banjo music means another southern driver is coming, only this time his tire is rolling over ice. Since ice does not readily compress, the pressure of his vehicle doesn't add much heat. Since there's very little friction between his tire and the ice, it won't warm up that way either. So it stays ice even though it's not that much colder than its melting point. Even on busier roads, the snow will convert to ice practically under the tires of cars trying to get home before the storm. This is how all of those cars ended up off the road. The fire, on the other hand, was sheer stupidity as that driver redlined the engine until it caught fire. On that note, it still takes drivers pushing forecasts to the limit to be on the road when this happens, but that's not the only thing that Northerners like to make fun of.
They're not making fun of Southerners for how we drive in the snow and ice. They're making fun of us for how we prepare for it. It's true. We do head to the store and a gas station before winter storms, and here is why. It's Sunday, January 8th, about 1:30, and this road behind me that ordinarily sees hundreds of cars an hour is pretty much shut down. It is a sheet of ice. We're not going anywhere, as if there was anywhere to go. Well, what's a road that's ordinarily so busy doing still covered in ice nearly 2 days after the start of the storm? First of all, it was pre-treated with brine, but we got so much rain, it washed it away, so that didn't do any good. Second of all, it is true, we don't have the sand or salt trucks that you have in the north. We don't have the snow removal equipment because it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense to invest money in all of that stuff that we would need for all the roads that are like this right now when Mother Nature is going to be taking care of it very soon. By Thursday, temperatures are going to be back up above 70 degrees. This will all be gone. I'll be in a t-shirt and shorts again. So before you leave a comment telling me how great the drivers are in your area in the snow and ice, remember, I'm going to be reading it on my deck soaking up the North Carolina sun while sipping a sweet tea. Be sure to follow me on Facebook and Instagram. You can see the links right here. And be sure to click right here to subscribe so you can catch my next videos on bows, guns, and other cool stuff like Southern redneck science. I really appreciate you watching Twang and Bang, and I hope to see you next time.